Hello, we're back. Come to the burgundy side. We have warm blankets. I know that I always end up being too cold, so I've just pre-wrapped myself in a big old comfy, fleecy blanket of amazingness. So this is us waking up after our first night. Fringe. Hunger is at the heart of a vampire's existence. To ignore it is to tempt the beast to take over in its desire to feed. To overindulge in feeding may threaten the masquerade while staining what humanity you have left. In Coteries of New York, having high hunger is indicated by a progressively thicker bloody frame around the screen, like the one you see now. So this, and there. Having like all three corners is like, oh no, beast mode is activated, we're about to go and eat people. Having the other side, I think that one is up, but we can't see it because of this box in the way. But having the whole thing up means like you don't get a choice. You cannot like face your base instincts. As your hunger grows, so does this indicator. Your hunger may increase when you call upon your vampiric powers, or when you need to mend your wounds after a fight. When your hunger reaches the maximum level, you will receive a warning after you complete a piece of the story. Ignore it at your own peril. Some traces might only become visible if your hunger is high enough. Similarly, high hunger may block off some traces, as you will be able to see after pressing continue. This is a blocked off option. This is continue. To decrease your hunger, you will need to feed. Whenever you see a feeding opportunity, you can take the risk to hunt and slake your hunger. Feeding opportunity. You will need to keep the hunger at bay if you are to uphold the masquerade and survive the nights that await you. Rest. You open your eyes. The bed isn't warm. The room is filled with artificial light from the ceiling. The solid metal door is closed. I was like, Solio? What could that word be? Normally you'd stretch for a bit. On some mornings, you'd probably throw the quilt over yourself and snooze a moment longer. But that was before. The way you woke up now, you're fully conscious. No grogginess. Why? I haven't been yawning at all, and then the moment I turn this on, I start yawning my head off. Nothing weighing you down, just the nagging need in the back of your head. Hunger, not as severe as the last time, but unmistakably there. You get up and open the door to the main room. A digital clock on the TV shows you the time, 9:04 p.m. You walk over to the blinds and retract them cautiously. The only light coming in is NYC's artificial nighttime luminescence. So that's what your waking hours are going to look like now. You missed the sunlight already. You're seriously considering just walking out of the apartment and figuring this all out by yourself. But then you come back to the memory of Kadir's exotic sword raised in the gallery. Maybe sticking around isn't that bad of an idea after all. You keep jumping channels for around half an hour and then switch to streaming services. Almost as if the universe had a sense of irony, you catch True Blood in the flood of recommendations. The doorbell rings. It's Sophie. Good evening, Lamar. Sleep well? Like a dead man. Curious wording, but not that far from the truth. I suppose no use dwelling on it. I think you will agree with time. I love how their eyes fade and brighten. And there's like this little... I love how basically everything pulses. Like the light fades in and out on the telly and on these things. There's like this overlay that slightly fades between the different like red hues there, and then obviously there's the dust motes. So they've just put a lot of movement in stuff, and I really like it. You made the right choice yesterday. I can teach you many things about yourself. Your blood, its desires, and its power. We will begin tonight. You are hungry, yes? I'm sure you are. Oh, that's something that really weird, like, yeah. So, the first time I played through this, I played as a Ventru, and you have, like, a strange taste in blood. You only like either, like, the Ventru have a flaw in the game, in the book, where you have to pick preferred prey. And you can say something as easy as, I like blondes, I like brunettes. Or you can make it complicated and be like, I only like people between this age range, or I only like to eat the blood of straight people, or gay people, or bi people, or whatever. And that means there's a drawback in when everyone else could normally just grab a bag of blood, you have to know who the blood's coming from, otherwise you drink it, you vomit it up. Or you have to like roll to see if you can smell if it's gonna make you sick or not. And then once you've investigated the bag, you can tell by looking at it that it's not going to work for you, or that it will work for you, so you don't have to go through the process of drinking it and vomiting it back up. In this game, Sophie said that she was going to help me figure out what clan I was from and things like that. And as a Ventru, I was going around, like, I was stumbling around, like, I can't drink this blood and I can't drink that blood. And she got offended at one point that you didn't like the blood of someone whose blood she likes. And instead of going, you're clearly a Ventru, because this is a drawback that most Ventru have, then instead of doing that, they were just like, fucking no idea what vampire clan you could be from until we find Josiah, sort of thing. So you'd think that they'd go, oh, you're a Ventru, so we're looking for a Ventru, like, amazing businessman who was in New York and was in that bar. So that narrows it down for Kadir to find. But no. You're hungry, yes? I'm sure you are. Our kind always is. There is only one remedy, the blood. The drinks we had yesterday at Elysium are not the usual way to slake your thirst. So tonight I will assist you in your first foray into hunting. You need to learn to sense the kind of blood you desire, to understand how you can use the kind's vulnerabilities to your advantage. I'm ready to learn. Let's get started. Such eagerness. Is it just your hunger making you impatient? You'll find that drinking moderate amounts of it regularly will keep the hunger and the whispers of the beast away. You might think yourself monstrous, but there is a balance to be found here. The kiss gives the kind pleasure. You might remember this from your own embrace. So when I was embraced as the Ventru, when I was embraced and was given the kiss, it literally likened it to the last time that Amanda the Ventru had an orgasm. So it's like, oh, you feel this sharp thing on your neck, but you feel immense pleasure from it, and it reminds you of your last the last orgasm you had. We didn't get that with the Bruja. We got like, oh, it's quite nice. Naira vampire, wee. And with Lamar, I can't remember. I just remember that he has a real strong connection to his sire, which I think is a Toreador thing. Like, the Toreador are just lovey-dovey, artsy-fartsy type vampires. So they always feel things to a depth, to an extreme. So like, if they're sad, they're not sad, they're melancholic. It's like they can't be pulled out of their somber thinking. Or if they're happy, they're like jubilant, like they're ecstatic about things. They deal with extremes, which is why Kadir is a strange character, because you find out that he's a Toreador. I don't know if we'll find it out in this run through, because it has to follow a certain word log tree sort of thing for you to find this out about him. But Sophie basically says he's a Toreador, so I feel sorry for him that he's got this job where he basically murders people, because he must feel that deep to his core. Which is why whenever you're dealing with Kadir, it's like, oh, a look crosses his face, which he then quickly like puts his mask back on of stoicism sort of thing. And it's obviously that he's feeling these deep feelings, but he's pulled between the emotions that he feels as a Ventru and his service to the prince, because if you're a sheriff, you're literally there to do the bidding of the prince, and sometimes if you agree with it or not, you still have to do it. Which is why there was the thing of, I'm ready to fulfill my duty, my prince. But then after the prince says that she doesn't, you don't need to be killed, you see that he has a sense of relief on his face before, it's quickly stoic again, sort of thing. You might remember this from your own embrace. Some can even become addicted to the sensation, but if you do it right, they tend to misremember your feeling, because it's too amazing. After all, vampires do not exist. They are myths, fairy tales, and pop culture mainstays, correct? She gives you a sly, knowing smile. That is why the masquerade is so important, and even more crucial when you feed. How do you avoid being seen? Or how do you cover your tracks? Biting leaves marks, right? And the victims remember your face. Oh, do our eyes do it as well? You shouldn't concern yourself with leaving marks. These are easy to conceal. You just need to bite carefully and then lick the punctures closed. That's all there is to it. Yeah, vampire saliva is like a healing agent. As being remembered, like I mentioned, the kiss is an ecstatic experience, so Kine can barely recall the details. And even when they do, the city is enormous. You could spend days in the streets and not see the same face twice. Use that to your advantage. Feeding from the same area repeatedly can be dangerous, but by branching out, you risk the ire of other kindred whose domains you trespass. Lucky for you, NYC is more forgiving in this regard. New York is in somewhat of a unique position. Many of its neighborhoods remain contested or unclaimed. The reason for this is a lesson for another time, but keep the following in mind. Take opportunities to feed when they present themselves. These upcoming nights, as long as you hunt cautiously and respect the masquerade at all times, you should be fine. To wit, I want you to join me for a trip tonight. Come downstairs. Gregory is waiting for us. So, when you were the Ventrue, straight from the party, she gave you a glass and you couldn't drink it, so she took you somewhere. I don't know if that's going to happen. The busy street fills with the air with traffic noise, pedestrian chatter, and a mix of smells that disorientate you momentarily. These warm bodies contain what you want, what you need. You catch yourself. Did you really think of these people as mere sources of blood? It takes a nudge from Sophie to break your train of thought. Her driver opens the door for her and then tips his hat to you, gesturing to the back of the car. The car casually joins the somewhat thinned New York traffic. It's still busy in a way only one of the biggest cities in the world can be, but compared to the daytime commute, it's a pleasant drive. You barely have the time to gather your thoughts and formulate new questions before the car comes to a stop. You're among the tall skyscrapers that make up Manhattan's iconic skyline. You feel a pang of emotion as you realise this is where you took part in the exhibition just 2 nights prior. Same address, and you suspect, same hall. To what ends has it been repurposed tonight? Come, Lamar, park the car. Gregory, will you? The driver just nods and Sophie gets out. You join her and the two of you walk through the glass doors together, then take the elevator up. So this is where you get taken to as the Ventrue. And as the Ventrue, it'll be the first time that you've seen this room. But obviously as the Toreador who has worked in this art gallery, you remember this art gallery. Driver nods, Sophie gets out. You join her and the two of you walk through the glass doors together, then take the elevator up. You first notice an empty stage with the instruments of a string quartet still in the back, then take in the few dozen chairs in front of it. The concert seemingly concluded, patrons, all smartly dressed and posh, have spread out all over the hall. Sophie strides confidently inside, produces an invitation from her purse that she flashes in front of a security guard. You follow close and are let through without issue. Let's start easy. A social setting like this one would usually prove quite challenging to an experienced kindred, but consider this evening a small gift from your patron. I'm hoping to procure you a willing vessel. Just remember what I told you about taking small sips. This one I have a soft spot for. Don't damage her. Now let's see here. Ah, there he is. She notices somebody in the crowd, flashes a heart-melting smile, and suddenly even you feel drawn to her. You haven't thought about it before, but it's laid clear before you in this moment. Sophie is beautiful. Just looking at her is a privilege. Just being with her makes you feel elated. Everybody in the crowd, but especially the man who, almost tripping over himself to reach her, clearly agrees. So she's currently using a power called Presence. Presence has 5 different layers to it, and the first one is awe. And if you use awe on people, you can get up to 30 people in a room to just fucking love you and be in awe of you. So clearly this is what Sophie is doing right now. Edgar, I'm so happy to see you. How is your daughter? Is she with you? Oh, there she is. Julie, my girl, come over please. There's somebody I'd like you to meet. The young woman walks across the hall. Can't be more than 19 years old. It's clear from her mismatched earrings and the particularly faded purple hair dye she doesn't fit in this crowd. Julie, this is Lamar. I think the two of you should get acquainted while I talk business with your dad. Awfully boring stuff, I assure you. I'm positive you'll like each other. The girl gives you a shy smile and nods towards the balcony stairs. You follow, somewhat unsure what it is exactly Sophie expects you to do. So this is exactly what happened when I was adventuring. You reach a secluded space from which the entire lobby is visible. All eyes are on Sophie. They listen intently, then laugh when she does. Julie saves you the trouble of figuring out the next step. I like her. I think she's cute, don't you? If you're with Sophie, then I guess you're, you know. She puts her wrist to her lips and gives a theatrical nip, and looks at you, embarrassed, but also hopeful. You're into that sort of thing? What? Are you into this sort of thing? She blushes, looks down at the floor and nods. Could you, if you'd like, Miss Langley tells me she swallows hard, avoids your eyes. That I taste nice? Drink from Julie. You take her forearm in your hands, a quick look around confirms nobody's watching and no security cameras cover this area. You bite down gently. So this is the moment when you are a Ventrue and you taste her and you realise that you don't like the taste. So you leave, making this poor girl feel bad that she didn't satisfy your needs. And then Sophie when she's in the car is like, I have exquisite taste and you didn't like the taste of her, and gets a bit of huff on, and I'm like, at this point you should realise that my character is a Ventrue. And in the art studio before you leave, you take a sip from all the different glasses, and then you find one that you like, and she asks the waiter to give you a card with that person's details on, so that you know their blood type, like their height, their colour, their gender, all that sort of stuff, because you can easily say I only drink from men or I only drink from women as well. It's real. She's just given you her blood of her own volition. How is this possible? What about the masquerade? You need to ask Sophie. Your thoughts disappear amid the bliss. There's just the taste, sweet, fresh, sanguine. You drink and drink and drink. No, stop. Tear away from the girl harder than you wanted. Still, the bite leaves just tiny punctures. Almost as if by instinct you lick them clean and the 2 holes become concealed, just like that. Julia is now leaning on the wall, pale, wobbly on her feet, but happy. She lets out a dreamy sigh, opens her eyes, a few tears fall into her shirt. Tears of joy. Thank you. Please, can you walk me downstairs? Please? My dad, he doesn't know. Thinks it's a condition. Miss Langley told him so. Oh. She leans on you and requests you walk her over to a bench. She takes a seat and smiles at you. The crowd around Sophie disperses slowly, looking at her now. Only some residual awe hangs in the air. Awe? Specifically mention it. Yes, she's pretty, maybe even beautiful, sure, but not your type. What came over you before? You walk over to her. Edgar, dear, it was splendid talking to you, but we need to get going. Give Julie my best wishes. Come with Lamar. Gregory is waiting for you out front. It's only in the car that Sophie addresses you. I can tell from your look that you took the opportunity. Good for you. The girl's exquisite, don't you think? You wouldn't tell by her demeanour, but she has so much passion. It brings out a unique bouquet in her blood. Her blood was delicious. She was something else, to be sure. Delicious. I could barely stop myself from drinking more. I'm glad you did. She's one of my favourites. Consider tonight special in this regard. I do not share her with just anybody. Time for the next stop. Train wheels off. This time, Gregory. Flushing Meadows, please. The driver takes the car over the Williamsburg Bridge. You settle your thoughts. What did you do to people back there? Those people back at the hall, they were all entranced. Entranced is another move within presence. Okay. Even I was under your spell. What was that? She smiles with satisfaction. That old trick? Just the blood doing my bidding. We all have our talents. Some of them come from the legacy we inherit from our sire, others can be learned with experience. I can sway people or make them fear me. I see more of the world and in greater detail than some kindred. I can will my body to move with unparalleled precision and grace, and more. All of these skills make me who I am. They also help me hunt. What are my powers? Okay, so what are my talents? Time will tell. You need to discover them yourself. When we arrive, experiment. Give different things a try. Follow your instinct and intuition. It will guide the blood. Always keep the masquerade in mind, however. It is all fine if you can disappear in plain sight or command animals with your mind, but save those overt talents for the right place and time. It only takes you half an hour to reach the park at this time of night. Both you and Sophie leave the car, with Gregory left behind again to find a parking spot and keep an eye on the car. Sophie seems deep in thought. She takes in the surroundings with a dreamy gaze. The sky is surprisingly clear tonight, the stars just barely visible in the light-polluted aura of the city. I feel like having a snack myself. I'll be by the fountain. Don't go look for somebody to your liking. See what effects you can achieve with your blood. But only pick one victim, just one, then come back. Seeing how she seems not altogether here right now, you decide to leave Sophie to her own devices and seek out your prey. From here, it looks like you have a few choices. Just taking a stroll around the park and finding an isolated jogger, or someone like them could work, but focusing on one area might work better. The New York State Pavilion might work as a secluded spot. There's a skate park nearby, and worst case scenario, there's bound to be some unfortunate wino around. Or maybe the tennis courts nearby. There's light coming from there, so somebody might still be playing late at night. A late night match. They won't be alone, but they might be tired and let their guard down. As these scenarios play out in your mind, you realize you're planning how to assault a stranger in the middle of the night. It's a weird way to be, but now the familiar hunger prompts you to act. Search for a victim around the park. It makes no sense. You start walking. The park's many avenues just hold a good spot or two for a predator like yourself. You pass 2 soccer fields and circle around where the Fountain of the Planets once awed visitors with its spectacle before coming across an opportunity. A woman, a small duffel bag on her arm, is making her way through the park in a hurry. She doesn't seem to have noticed you yet. Presents. So this is, presents. Oh, as a Toreador, of course we've got presents, so let's try and get her attention. You think back to what Sophie did in the hall, how she managed to focus the attention of the entire gathering on her. What might be a tall order for you, but a single person could be doable. For a moment you're thinking how an old guy in a hood would appear over your shoulder saying, "Use the force, Lamar." It feels ridiculous. But then something stirs within you. There's a confidence there, an allure that you might have had before, but one that's increased manifold in this moment. You catch the woman's eyes. She flashes an unsure smile, almost in spite of herself, as she passes you by. Hey you. She's tense, gripping her bag close but attentive. Her eyes lock onto yours. The slight smile is there again. Yes? What is it? She looks intense, but then again, she's a woman walking alone in a park being approached by a guy, so yeah. Almost intuitively, you close the distance between you. She can't look away. She's unprepared for what follows. In a swift move, you grab her and bite down. Her surprise resonates in her blood. Hot, excited, fast-flowing. She tenses up, then relaxes. The duffel bag hits the ground. Bliss. Footsteps. You let go of her. She drops to the ground, barely conscious. A hooded man is looking menacingly at you. Oh, what do you think you're doing here, barging in on my turf like this, lick? What is a lick? A derogatory term usually used to address young, unexperienced vampires. Okay. I just wanted to know why it came up as a diary, a dictionary thing. Didn't mean to trespass, I'm gone. Too late for that, friendo. You want to leave here in one piece? You talk candidly. I know what you are, so you can shove that masquerade misdirection up your ass. Now better tell me who you're with before my posse shows up and we beat it out of you. Big talk coming from a chump. You talk big, but I'm thinking you're just a chump. Want to prove me wrong? He tenses up, giving you an extremely nasty look and bares his fangs. You don't want to push your luck, dumb fuck. My crew is in earshot. One shout away and you're D-O-N-E done. You get what I'm saying? So if you want to dance, let's dance. Once I'm through, I'ma hand you over to Callahan, and you're gonna be sorry I didn't finish you off instead. Oh. Okay, but that could break the masquerade. Running fast. Okay, do that. You take off fast, faster than you ever run. The hoodlum has trouble keeping up, but howls behind you like an animal and gives chase anyway. As you reach the Unisphere again, you slow down, noticing two people near the sculpture, a man and a woman tangled in a passionate embrace. No, not exactly. Sophie is feeding. Well, it is an embrace. Well, she's not embracing them, but yeah, she's eating them. It's Sophie feeding, but this whole scene is set up so that it looks like a couple getting intimate in public. She pulls it off like she's done it 100 times before. It occurs to you she probably has. The man is unsure on his feet as she lets go of him and leads him towards a nearby bench. Noticing you, she whispers something into his ear and leaves him. The driver appears from behind a tree. Well, Lamar, how did it go? You're about to answer when the same figure as before emerges from one of the alleys. He looks at the three of you and a predatory smile creeps onto his lips. You thought you could run away from me, Lick? Think you'll be safe with your friends? Well, I have friends too. He makes a motion to shout, but two things happen almost at the same time. First, that feeling of warmth and beauty emanating from Sophie flares up again, entrancing both you and the hooded thug. His shout comes out as a weak, confused squeak. Second, Gregory produces a wooden stake from a holster under his jacket and slams it into the thug's chest. Just like that, in a few seconds, the posturing vampire is down on the ground, paralyzed. I see you've made a friend, Lamar. Curious choice of company, I would say. Who is he? He mentioned a Callahan? He said something about presenting me to somebody named Callahan. Ever heard of him? She looks shocked for a split second, then recovers her regular countenance. Yes, I have. This hoodlum is Anarch, then. Ooh. Curious, Corona Park has not claimed any kindred last I checked. If you saw me play the previous game, you'll know what the Anarchs are. If not, the Camarilla is the sect of vampires that Sophie's in and that I'm technically in as her protege. And basically they are we uphold the law by enforcing, we uphold the masquerade by enforcing laws that make us live in a way that makes humans, the kind, not know that we exist. And if you break the masquerade and all that sort of stuff, then we're going to come and kill you because you're too much trouble. The Anarchs live by a similar rule, which is, yeah, we're not going to go around breaking the masquerade, but also we don't want to be ruled by one prince. We want to have our own little groups dotted about where we look after our own. And obviously the Camarilla are opposed to that because it means that there's vampires out there doing what they want that aren't strictly under Camarilla control. But that doesn't bother the Camarilla. They're still going to, if they can, punish an Anarch the same way they will Camarilla. So let's go. We'll put him in the trunk and present him to Kadir tomorrow night. I'm sure he'll be delighted to make this unbound's acquaintance. Gregory carries the staked vampire and dumps him in the car's trunk like a mannequin. It's a strange sight, and you're quite happy you're not in that poor fucker's shoes right now. It's almost surprising that you can get away with just casually throwing a stiff into your car and driving away, but then you remember that Sophie's been doing this far longer than you have. Still, the nagging thought that anything you did tonight could have been recorded on a CCTV camera, or picked up by a rando with a half-decent smartphone, and streamed online, fills you with dread. Hunting and using your abilities is dangerous business. It's clear that this whole being a vampire thing has about as many caveats as it has pegs. You're taken out of your headspace by Sophie's voice. I'll pick you up tomorrow night, same as tonight. I have some business to attend to at Elysium, and expect you to accompany me. Plus, our friend in the back needs to be properly introduced to Kadir and the prince. I'm sure he'll have some interesting things to say to the court. Her voice is cold, cruel, and nothing like the enchanting personality she showed at the gallery earlier tonight. Sophie is clearly a woman of many faces. What's going to happen to him? What's going to happen to him? The usual, I imagine. Interrogation by Kadir, probably in the basement of the gallery. A quick trial with the prince in attendance if she's there tomorrow night. A swift execution as the verdict. This all sounds eerily familiar to you, and you can't help but feel a pang of guilt when you think about what awaits this guy tomorrow night. You haven't told me about how your hunting went. Getting the hang of it, I would hope. I'll take some. Yeah, I think so, yeah. I think I am, yeah. I'll cope. I'm glad. She doesn't question you further. She seems distracted, not all there. Her thoughts drift and the car remains silent until you reach your apartment. We will pick you up tomorrow evening. Good night. Just like that, without any further courtesy, Sophie leaves, driven to her apartment by Gregory, with a body in the trunk, right in the middle of Manhattan. Did you cross paths with situations like these in the past, unknowingly? What other secrets did you pass on the streets without knowing their true nature? Your haven is just as you left it hours ago, although the sun won't come up for some time. You feel tired. You learned something about yourself today, and it'll take time to process. You're not in the mood for television, and the few books on the shelves in the apartment are either in languages you don't speak or sound like a boring read. Nothing left to do but rest. You settle back into the room, lock the door, a moment of hesitation, but then a decision. It's time you turn the light off. Think back to Julie. How many people in this city know about this vampiric society? How many are willing accomplices in sustaining it? And the thug you met in the park, if he's not Camarilla, then what is he? Are there independent vampires, and how does that work? More questions. You begin wondering if there's ever going to be a night when you can start crossing them off the list, instead of adding to it. You close your eyes. You sink into the now familiar void of nothingness. It greets you with open arms like an old friend. Here we go. Bwah! Is it going to happen? Oh no, it didn't. It might happen after this little thing. We'll wake up to the big noise. There it is. You open your eyes. It's pitch dark here, the blackness of a coffin drifting in the abyss. Oh right, the light. You grasp for the switch, flip it. The familiar cramped room with a steel door and no windows comes into view. You emerge from the bedroom, fully awake. Just like yesterday. This time, however, Sophie is waiting for you, comfortably seated on the sofa in your living room space, a book in her hand, The Melancholy of Resistance, the title's sure on brand. Good evening, Lamar. Good evening, Sophie. I hope you rested well. Tonight will be quite eventful, I think. Come, we have an appointment. I received word Elysium would be called again tonight on account of your unruly friend from Corona Park. This should be a great opportunity for you to mingle. She keeps talking as you walk downstairs and get in the car. Gregory gives you a slight nod and a small smile while opening the door for Sophie. He starts the car when you take your seat in the back. Most of the Primogen Council is bound to be there, at least those who usually attend, probably some more important personalities you'd do well to learn about. Primogen are the people who are the... It depends, so it can be... the 13 clans that exist, like Toreador, Ventru, Bruja, etc., etc., etc. The Primogen is the person that's either been elected to be the person that consults about problems to do with everyone and they represent their clan, or it's the first person who entered the area who is a Bruja or Ventru or whatever. So if one hasn't been appointed by the clan, then they might just be picked off the fact that, oh, this is the first Ventru that came to the council and said, hi, I'm here as a Ventru. That doesn't make any sense because Ventru will be the first ones there generally, but like the first Bruja that appeared on the scene will make them the leader for the rest of them, sort of thing. Most of the Primogen Council, in fact, I could just do this. The Primogen Council represents the interests of the local kindred and advises the prince on matters of law and rule. Traditionally, it consists of representatives from each of the most prominent clans or factions in the domain, naturally favouring those of the Camarilla, though outsiders are allowed to report any issues to a Primogen not of their own clan. Primogen are often elders, but despite the term Primogen from Latin means the firstborn, there are no rules in place that this is how it must be. In fact, during the last few decades, more and more councils have seen drastic changes to their structure. So it could also be the oldest Primogen, the oldest person of that clan. Haven is your home. Court is... you can pause this. I don't need to... new unread. Okay, so who's the prince? What's the hunger? What's a vessel? What's the beast? What's the sire? What's a child? What's the masquerade? What are the traditions? These are quite interesting, actually, the 6 traditions. First tradition, the masquerade. Thou shalt not reveal thy true nature. Awesome. The domain. Thy domain is thine own concern. All others owe thee respect while in it. The tradition, the progeny. Thou shalt only sire another with the permission of thine elder. Fourth tradition, the accounting. Those who create are thine own. Those thou create are thy own children. Their sins are thine to endure. The fifth tradition, hospitality. Honor one another's domain. Without the word of acceptance, thou art nothing. So basically, if you're going to enter someone else's domain, you have to send a letter to the person whose domain it is and be like, hello, I would like to be in your domain. Do you give me permission to do this? Or you have to go and seek out the person whose domain you're in. So if you entered New York as a new vampire, you would, within a time limit, go and visit the prince and be like, hello, prince or sheriff or someone in a position of authority. I've just entered the area. I've come to let you know that I'm here. Hello, am I okay to walk around here? And then they'd be like, yes, sure, or no, fuck off. And in some cases, there are places that are anarch-controlled, so like small cities where the Camarilla don't sort of have any hold over them because there's too many anarchs there. And instead of having a prince, they call their princes a baron, and that's literally just a person who gives other people permission to work in that area. Without the acceptance, thou art nothing. So basically, if you go into a someone else's domain without having asked for the hospitality of being in their domain, they can flat out kill you because you were in their domain without permission. Sixth tradition is destruction. Thou art forbidden to destroy another of thy kind. The right of destruction belongs only to thine elder. So don't go around killing vampires, otherwise we're going to kill you. And the only person who can kill you is the person who made you, your sire, if you become a problem for them. That's it. What are the kind? That's just humans. Kindred, they are vampires. The sect is a group of vampires arguably united under a common philosophy. The two most widely known sects are the Camarilla and the Anarchs. I would argue, I could be wrong, but I would argue that it's gone out my head. But the naughty people who just don't give a shit could be considered a sect. But then again, they don't generally work together under... No, they do rule under a philosophy. Okay, yeah, I still hold that the ones whose name I can't think of, they should be a sect. Elysium, the Sheriff, the Kiss, the Embrace, the Domain. I thought the Embrace was the bottom one then. So we have everything. There's nothing new. Oh, yes there is. Oh, I've just clicked on all of these. Okay. Most of the Primogen Council is bound to be there. At least those who usually attend. Probably some other important personalities you'd do well to at least learn about. Who should I talk to? How should I carry myself on the inside? You never told me if there's any savoir-vivre of kind of rules I should respect when talking to the vampires. Savoir-vivre literally just means etiquette. Is there an etiquette I need to follow when talking to other vampires? It's a fancy French term that means be nice in society or you come across as a dickbag. Knowing that you're among your superiors is probably the most important. In our society, status comes with age. Pardon my sincerity, but you are insignificant. Not even associating with me can make the fact that you've been kindred for barely a few nights be forgotten. You know your place, so know your place, stay out of the superior's business, and show the utmost respect. Thanking the prince for sparing you and maybe having a friendly chat with the Kadir publicly might show your gratefulness for being part of the Camarilla now. I would suggest you make it sincere. At any rate, you should behave yourself tonight. Remember what I told you about reflecting on me as your patron. I have a reputation to uphold in the court. Do not tarnish it. There it is. She might have saved you. She might be protecting and teaching you, but it's clear that she's really concerned about her own interests. You step into the art hole with something of a bad memory. The last time you were here, your entire world had been turned upside down and your existence nearly ended. But tonight, there's very little outward hostility. Yes, Kadir gives you a look. Right, I'm just gonna... Only because I don't want it to be overpowering in your ears and me not have realised. Tonight there is very little outward hostility. Yes, Kadir gives you a look that's definitely intended to remind you of your place, but the prince, also in attendance, seems pleased to see you. Welcome, Sophie Lamar. Did I get that right? Good evening to both of you. I understand there is somebody else you wish to present to the court tonight. Yes, Prince, they will be joining us shortly. My assistant is retrieving them presently. This better be worth the prince's time, Langley. The prince gives Kadir a cold glance. Forgive the sheriff's harshness. He's in a particularly foul mood tonight. Something to do with Lamar's baguette eluding his grasp, I believe. Ouch, that must have hurt his ego, even if his only reply is a crooked smile. The mention of your sire makes you feel a pang of emotion again. Whoever he was, he left a lasting impression, one reinforced with your visit to the show space last night. That's the past. Right now, though, you're back in the gallery and are reminded of your sister instead. Emma frequents this place. Is she aware of these clandestine meetings after dark? The flaring up of whispers in the gallery hall breaks you out of your thoughts. Gregory enters the room, the jumpsuit-clad inert vampire still staked on his shoulder. The show is about to start. Sophie's driver places his charge in the middle of the room and nods respectfully to Kadir. The sheriff approaches the vampire and removes the stake from his chest. The captive's eyes flicker to life and he starts to look around in disbelief. Like a cornered animal, he backs out on all fours, keeps going in circles until he realizes that he's trapped. Kadir steps on the man's chest and pins him to the floor. Why, who do we have here? Oh fuck, oh shit, no, come on, don't. Silence. The sheriff takes on an aura of utter dread. He appears as if he's a primal force of nature that's out to get you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do but shrivel in terror. That's another presence thing. You can dread gaze someone, which means when you look at them, like give them eye contact, they do anything to flee your presence. They want to get away from you. They feel like you are the bigger, badder animal in the room. The beast inside you shrieks, and you could swear it happens in unison with the instincts of some of the other guests here tonight. It's unlike anything you've experienced in his company during your turbulent first night as a vampire. He really did go easy on you, all things considered. It seems like it takes all of the hoodlum's willpower to not crawl into a fetal position and start crying. No, please, don't hurt me, man, don't. You and me are going to have a little talk downstairs at the prince's discretion. Please go ahead, my sheriff. You heard the prince. Get up, let's go. I think he's very handsome. I think he's very beautiful. Look at that full bottom lip. You just want to bite it. He doesn't wait for a confirmation. He just grabs the man and drags him, kicking and screaming, out of the room. Conversations start all around you. Some whispered, some quite overt. Sophie looks somewhat bored of the whole affair, her eyes wandering from art piece to art piece, clearly finding nothing to her particular liking. Will Kadir manage this on his own? That guy's shifty and desperate. There might be more to him than meets the eye. Will Kadir manage to deal with him alone? What a ridiculous notion. Of course he will. What is one cornered rat for an old, experienced predator? Excuse me. Sophie leaves your side and goes into a corner of the gallery where a group of kindred, some seemingly pretty old-fashioned, gathered. A concierge offers you a drink, still warm. It smells nice. Drinking opportunity. Just a sip to start you off, a splash over your palate, coating your tongue and the inside of your cheeks. Nourishment. You're left to your own devices. You have a quick look around. The prince is currently talking to a dark-skinned woman that you recall seeing here a few nights ago. She has a cold but noble countenance to her. Their conversation seems to be casual. A loud shrill laugh turns your attention to the bespectacled man who you saw with Sophie on the night of your judgment. He's making the rounds, chatting up different patrons. You feel somebody's eyes on you. A casually dressed, plain-looking man stands alone near a column, watching you. He turns his gaze away sheepishly when he realizes you've noticed. So I want to try and talk to the prince, because she said we should talk to the prince and the sheriff. You approach the prince, trying to stay as respectful of her private conversation as possible. She glances at you as you step forward, her scrutinizing gaze mimicked by her companion. She addresses the dark-skinned woman before turning to you. Excuse me for just a moment, Samira. Yes, Lamar, what is it? I wanted to give you my thanks. I wish to thank you for sparing me, Prince. I realised it wasn't an easy decision to make, and I wanted to express my sincere appreciation. How thoughtful of you. She takes a long look at you before she continues. I didn't do it from the kindness of my unbeating heart. You are an asset to Miss Langley, to the Camarilla, and to me. I believe I made the right decision. Prove to me and the other kindred of this city that it was so, and there might be more to your future nights than just survival and servitude. The dark-skinned woman looks impatiently at you and catches the prince's attention. Forgive me. That's all the time I can spare right now. We have some things to discuss with Samir still. Enjoy your night, Lamar. Just bow and leave, or say the same? Bow and leave. You leave the two women to their conversation, which they get back to almost immediately after the prince turns to Samira. You notice Sophie mingling with other kindred, clearly in her element and not to be disturbed. Kadir hasn't come back yet, so you can probably still find time for at least one conversation. Last time, I chose the spectacled man, but I'm going to confront the man that was looking at me. There's something about this guy. It's not that he's staring at you. Most everybody in this room has, but at one point or another. But it's how he does it. He seems shy, maybe even afraid. It's hard to find a secluded spot in the gallery tonight, but this guy has an entire corner of the room all to himself. As you approach, he's standing alone with no glass in hand, a worried look on his face. Good evening, Mr. Larson, or you can call me Robert. Either's fine. So who are you? You mean like generally? A vampire, same as you. Though I might not quite look it. I'm one of Prince Panhand's Primogen. I'm here on business in case the prince requires my insight. Usually it's so she can hear me out before ignoring me. Not sure if you were paying attention the other night, but when the prince mentioned diverging opinions on whether you should be executed or not, that was me. I was the diverging opinion. Wow, thank you. That's huge, thank you, even if it didn't change the prince's mind. Yeah, that's usually how it goes. Listen, I don't want to be rude, and I appreciate you reaching out, but word of advice, stay away from me. Many vampires in this sect regard my position as Primogen to be some kind of a joke. You know? You talk to me, they'll notice, and they'll hold it against you. You have a quick look behind you and see that a few of the kindred keep shooting you curious glances. One woman in particular, a redhead boasting a fanciful hairstyle, watching you disapprovingly. Some of them already do, I imagine. Excuse me. I need to try to get a word in with a few Primogen members before Kadir returns. Enjoy your night. With just the critical looks of a few kindred to keep you company, you start thinking about who to pursue next. A loud exchange near the staircase grabs everyone's attention. Kadir is back, and the hoodlum is with him. The sheriff pushes his unfortunate victim inside the room. The vampire that threatened you last night is a mess. That stupid hat is still inexplicably on his head, covering some of his ruined face in welcome shadow. He's barely conscious. His shin is broken, you think, something protruding there, making the pant leg bulge. One arm seems twisted at a strange angle. Very little blood, surprisingly. Clearly a whole lot of hair. Well, Kadir, did our guest cooperate? Tell the prince your name. It's Howard. And who do you run with, Howard? The Midnighters. An anarch coterie, my prince. Active for some time now. Though from what this one told me, the name is about the only legacy the group has kept over the years. I see. Hey, Prince, I didn't mean it. I didn't know. I didn't. A loud crack makes some of the guests audibly gasp as Kadir's slap dislocates the man's jaw. A spray of blood creates something like an abstract art piece on the floor. This one is guilty of threatening a member of the Camarilla and claiming a domain without the prince's approval. That alone should be enough to pass swift judgment, but he is also anarch scum. My prince? There can be only one verdict, final death. Do your duty, Sheriff. Unless, of course, somebody would like to play at being a good Samaritan, like our dear Miss Langley a few nights ago. The look the prince serves you and Sophie is a cruel jest. Sophie takes it gracefully, smiling and slipping her arm under yours in a strange public show of affection. Nobody says anything. The vampire named Howard jumps to his feet and makes for the window. Celerity, grab him. In a split second, you make your choice. Focusing your blood, you dash forward and grab Howard by the back of his jumpsuit, pulling him away from the window. You expect some resistance, but find you don't have to worry about it when a swift cut separates Howard's head from his body. You let go, and the headless corpse slumps to the ground. Kadir is standing between you and the window, his sword drawn and an ugly smile on his face. Well, Lamar, your eagerness is laudable, if unnecessary. That Howard fellow couldn't have hoped to escape his fate, not facing Kadir's expertise. However, I have made note of this show of loyalty on both your and your patron's accounts. I'd like to thank Miss Langley for bringing this anarch thug to mine and Kadir's attention. I assume all have found the verdict satisfactory. It's a rhetorical question and everybody here knows it. Then I consider tonight's meeting concluded. Good night to all of you. She steps out of the room and you see that many of the guests move to do the same. Sophie seems to be conversing with somebody, a serious-looking man in a trench coat, about what transpired. You probably have the time to strike up a conversation of your own too. Kadir al-Assami is still here for one, but clearly getting ready to leave. Larson is still moping around, and the other man you noticed before Kadir brought the anarch is still chatting with the remaining attendants. So, we were told to speak to Kadir and to the prince to make a show of being chatty and stuff. The sheriff's mood seems to have improved, so you decide you won't get a better shot at saying your piece. He is just sheathing a sword as you approach him. He notices you just before his face turns from a melancholic frown back to his regular predatory smirk. You seem to have caught him in a moment of reflection. What is it, Lamar? I wanted to thank you for bringing me here. Is everything alright? Hey, you okay? Did I catch you at a bad time? The smirk is gone, the lips are tight now, his face a mask of professionalism and straight. I have no idea what you're talking about. This is a night like any other. Still, I have to admit I was surprised at the prince when you jumped at the opportunity to stop that anarch from escaping. I was sure Valerie would have beaten you to it. If there's nothing else, I'll be taking my leave. Do you enjoy being sheriff? Tell me, do you enjoy this, being a sheriff for Prince Panhard? Enjoyment has nothing to do with this. It's my duty. When Celebros asked me to fill the shoes of the sheriff and root out our enemies, I was glad to serve the sect. When Helene became prince and asked me that I keep doing this, I agreed, because I believe in the Camarilla and I respect the fact that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. He picks up the sword and turns toward the stairs. If more kindred understand that, my job would be much duller, though. On that note, I wish you a good night. And watch yourself. You've messed up my batting average, so I'll be sure to keep a close eye on you. With that final threat, he leaves the gallery. It's right about when Sophie also ends her conversation and walks over to you. Interesting evening, wasn't it? Come, Gregory's waiting downstairs. She seems preoccupied with something and not in a talkative mood. It's an awkward ride back to the city. So, in that you have an opportunity to speak to 4 different people. I chose the guy that was looking at us because I had not chose that option the first time around, and I spoke to the guy with spectacles who was quite sociable, and we just had like a nice casual chat before he said, okay, well I have to continue doing my rounds, and then he buggered off. So I just wanted to know who the other vampire was. I had a feeling it was Lamar because in a quest that you do with one of the vampires that you can choose to work with, Lamar is one of the main characters that you seek out on a few occasions about it, because it's about thin bloods, and Lamar is a thin blood primogen, so he deals with all the thin blood problems, and he apparently is a very good primogen because they let him live with his human family, because thin bloods have they're more human. So they have less merits and less flaws than most vampires do. She seemed preoccupied with something and not in a talkative mood. It's an awkward ride to the city, but obviously having him live with his family could be a masquerade breaker if he has to drink blood. But thin bloods tend to be able to eat food as normal anyway. Any vampire can buy the eat food perk, so you can appear more human by actually eating food, but it doesn't do anything for them, it doesn't nourish them or anything, so yeah, Lamar still lives with his family, and that's a big fucking deal because you're not allowed to sort of have ties to your life before you were embraced. She seemed preoccupied with something and not in a talkative mood. It's an awkward ride back to the city. This time you arrive at another building, just 2 streets across from your apartment. She brings you upstairs through a very nice lobby and a luxurious-looking hall into her domain. Please have a seat. I shall be right with you. You take in your surroundings. The apartment is like a gallery, an old-school smoking room that you've seen in some period piece once, and a nouveau Ricci's living room. Sorry, I was about to put this on the edge of my phone and almost end up with coke down my front. And a nouveau Ricci's living room, meticulously combined together. Apologies, old habits die hard. Clearly some stick with you even after your death. She drags on her cigarette and breathes out. Breathes? How is she doing that? Can you do that? Oh yes, you might not know, it takes some practice, but you can keep smoking if you like. Other things too. Experiment, you might surprise yourself. But I did not bring you here to show off. This is where I rest these nights. That door in the back, the bedroom, similar to yours. I have servants and bodyguards in addition, of course. I brought you here because I need you to trust me. When I told you before that I needed your best behaviour to uphold my good standing with the court, I meant it, but that's not the whole story. I have your interest in mind too. That's why I've given you your own haven, why I'm trying to teach you how to navigate this new reality. But you need to trust me, or else this won't work. You can come here whenever you feel like asking me something, when you're in trouble too, though I hope that won't happen often. I would ask you come here when you wake up tomorrow. I'll have something to discuss with you. Trust needs to be earned. Why not discuss it right now? I'll be here. Okay, I'll come over first thing tomorrow night. I appreciate that. The silence again. There is definitely something on Sophie's mind tonight, but she doesn't seem eager to share it with you just yet. I'm leaving for another visit. Come downstairs with me. We'll give you a lift. A quick trip, a promise that you'll show up tomorrow, and some polite goodbyes later. You open the door to your haven and gather your thoughts. It's exciting in a way, being dragged deeper and deeper into this secret society and its rules. Whatever Sophie has planned for you, it's bound to teach you more about this thing than you have become. You sink into your vampiric sleep with just a sliver of hope. It's a welcome change. Sleep. See, this is when you start being able to choose your own destiny. Once more, darkness falls upon the city. You wake up same as you have these past few nights, in a windowless room. As you pry open the reinforced steel door, you look out the window to see, invariably, a sky bereft of sunlight, and then it hits you, the hunger. For a moment you let yourself wonder if there will ever come a night when it's just not there. Given what you've learned thus far, you probably have as much chance of kick-starting your heart with jumper cables. You lock the apartment behind you and head over to Sophie's apartment. You did promise to call on her. Might as well not keep the lady waiting. And hey, what else are you going to do? Call M? She's probably worried. At least she will be. Once she actually tries to give you a call, which might not happen for a few more weeks, months, if she's busy doing press for a new piece. You could try to track down your sire if the sheriff hasn't done that already. After all, he did buy your painting. There still has to be a money trail, right? But even if so, what would you say to him? These thoughts put you in a weird mood. It's a strange sensation to walk the crowded streets, same as you have so many times before, but feeling so disconnected, all these people, you're not one of them. Not anymore. You're a vampire, kindred, and you need to carve your own path in the strange new existence, one way or another. Appropriately enough, you arrive at Sophie's building just as that thought crosses your mind. A quick word with the security guard, and you're let into the elevator. Apparently, Miss Langley is expecting you. Of course she is. You knock and wait patiently as the footsteps on the other side of the door grow closer. Finally, the door opens and Gregory, Sophie's driver, invites you in. You find the lady herself standing by the window, silhouetted against the city's midnight glow. She stares out, motionless like a marble statue. She is beautiful, isn't she? I love this paint style. It's like they've managed to capture acrylic painting style in a digital art form. It's really pretty. Look at them big, beautiful, luscious lips. And I love the redness to her nose. Although it does make her look a bit more human. Like, I feel like this should be dulled down into a more grayscale-y, pale version. Anyway. Am I interrupting something? Hey, am I interrupting something? She doesn't react immediately, but seems to snap out with some meditative state and looks at you with strangely blurry eyes. Yes, you are, but that's all right. I've been meaning to ask you something. When you look at this city, When you see the lights, hear the hum, smell the rain on the pavement, what do you think about? You gaze out. You thought the city couldn't surprise you anymore. You've lived here all your life, after all. But tonight something feels different. You realise in this moment that you've truly changed. Yes, you know what Sophie means. The way she gazed out that window and saw the truth beyond. You do the same. The view is fascinating. Each detail absorbing. Every angle a new experience. I love that feeling. You know when you when it's gotten dark and you're on a balcony somewhere, and you can see like people moving about, going about like the last thing that they're doing for the night, and you've got that chill on the air, and it's quite nice to just take everything in that moment. I love going for walks late at night because the feeling of like the darkness, and it's just this utter seclusion that you don't get in daytime. And I love when you're alone and you go for walks in busy streets and stuff, and you see everyone's doing their own thing, and you're just walking about. Like, if you have nothing to focus on, it's really nice to just be absorbed in the hearing everyone else's footfalls and just chatter and stuff going on. Obviously not now because of COVID, but it's nice to just absorb life going on around you, and it's specifically really beautiful thing to do quite late at night, especially if you're like up high watching the world go by. Because I'm a lot of friends used to smoke cigarettes on the balcony of their flat, or my friend's mum had a house that had a balcony on the second story, and we used to sit out on it while my friend was having a cigarette, and just like watch people go by. Because one friend's mum overlooked a cemetery, so it was really beautiful because there was a cemetery and then a long road that arched around it that you'd see people going past on. And there was another friend who lived in a block of flats where it was like a block of flats and another block of flats and like a council estate. So you'd see everyone like walking about late at night to drop something off or pick something up or whatever they were doing with their day. And it was really fascinating to just sort of watch them and think, I wonder what you're doing, I wonder what's going through your mind right now. Because everyone has complex thoughts and feelings going on in them most times. So it's really interesting to, as a sort of thought, sort of just process, to just sit there and think, what could you be doing? Where could you be going? Like, you're like hunched over, it's clearly cold, you're not wearing a coat that's warm enough to keep you warm for the evening, you've just left still wearing your tracksuit top or whatever you're wearing, and clearly you're not feeling the benefit of now being out in the cold from the warmth of it. Are you going to your nan's to drop something off? Like, are you going to meet your girlfriend who you haven't seen for a while? Are you going to hang out with some friends because one of them works, so you only get to go out this late at night, so you're going for a drink in a pub to play some games of pool? And it's just, it's fascinating to think that you're sitting here in this moment and you're just like chilling with a friend and chatting, and they're smoking a cigarette or something, and the world around you is filled with really complex beings exactly like you, doing their own thing, and in their world, that is the center, that is everything that's going on with them in that moment, and you're watching all these little worlds happen. It's really, really, I love that. Anyway, obviously I'd be a Toreador. The view is fascinating, each detail absorbing, every angle a new experience, the familiar made sublime. When you turn to Sophie again, she smiles at you knowingly. Ah, so you understand? I had my doubts, but perhaps we are of shared lineage after all. So let's just Coterie, small group of kindred, final death, vampire ceases to exist, lineage, vampire's bloodline, the kindred sire, sire's sire, etc. An archaic term. You see, the blood that flows within me is that of Clan Toreador. So clan and Toreador. Since we're from that clan, I'll read this out. Many Toreador emerge from the ranks of accomplished artists, both new and faded. but not all artists need to wield a brush. Actually, this is why I'd be a toreador, because I'm quite arty. I craft things, I make things, like I crocheted this, and I crocheted this tiny pumpkin, because why not? I also paint things. I have calligraphy pens just lying about waiting to be used, my digital art pens, all of my ink pens and paintbrushes and stuff. I'm quite artistic, so I would be a toreador for that feeling, for that thing alone. My massive rant about how I'm clearly so soulful and get involved in trying to read aspects of other people's lives was probably not necessary. But it is a wonderful feeling. I know what you mean, like what these characters mean when they say, like, when you look out at something that you've seen 1,000 times before and all of a sudden it seems like really beautiful. Like, I don't get, like, one of my exes, I remember we were on the bus and it was late at night and we could see Liverpool all lit up as we were driving towards it. And I was like, isn't that really beautiful? Like, in the darkness, you can see the stars here, and then over there, you can just see the light of people being busy. And he was like, that's not beautiful, nature's beautiful. And I was like, nature is beautiful. I'm not denying nature's beauty. But there's also something beautiful about people busying themselves, and all these lights representing, like, street lights, like representing keeping people safe so that they don't accidentally get hit by a car or accidentally walk into something or hurt themselves and roll their ankle on a pothole or something. And then there's like the lights inside people's houses where they're sitting in their warmth watching their television or enjoying time with friends and family or whatever. Like, lights represent things when they're, especially, like, it seems like against the darkness, especially because it's like the darkness sort of represents the calm when everyone's going to sleep and everyone's like no longer busying themselves. Obviously some people work at night, I'm not saying that, but it represents a sort of calmness, like when the sun is up, that's when we're most active and busy and going about our days and stuff. And then at night it's like everything comes to a standstill and only the rogue few are out to see what's going on in the world. So when you see people about doing things and you see these lights lit and you see like the bus goes past this park, and every time we go past this park I just think, is there someone in this park? Like, there's a bench right near the gate. Like, how many people sit there and smoke and just share a conversation, or have a sandwich, or just, you know, how many bums have been on that bench and shared communication and had, you know, just moments together. Like, it's just so lovely because, like, my husband, I got married. Don't know if I mentioned that. My lovely husband. Our dates are beautiful, like really beautiful memories to have. But on our first date, when we were leaving each other, he's 6'2" and I'm 5'2", and he like bent down to like give me a kiss, but also he was like, oh shit, if I kiss her, will this ruin this? Does she just think we're friends? And I went in for a kiss, and basically what ended up happening was, because we were coming at each other, like we smeared our lips against each other and hugged. And then he got on the bus, and he lived in the Wirral, that was his family home, so he got on the bus and went to the Wirral, and he went through the Liverpool tunnel. So I sent him a text that said that kiss was crap, I expect better next time, or something along those lines. And as he went through the tunnel, you lose connection to your phone, so he clearly didn't receive my text. And the tunnel is like 4 or 5 minutes long, so in that time he must have like done something else, like read a book or something, got home, got back to his mum's house and did whatever he was doing. And I was meeting up with my friend Michael. So I went to meet with my friend Michael, and I was like, I've messaged him this thing, I'm such an idiot, clearly like it wasn't a kiss, and I went in for the kiss and he was trying to like not have the kiss with me, so he like turned away so that he could hug me, and now I've kind of made him awkward. Like I didn't feel awkward or like weirded out or anything. I just thought like, oh, what like I thought he was nice, and I'd like to go on a second date with him. And you know, if he doesn't, because of that strange situation that just happened, like maybe I was going in for the kiss and he wasn't, and now I've made it awkward for him. So I was kind of like, oh, what a shame, like I really like this guy, I hope that he, you know, sees at least the light side of it and doesn't think that I'm some weirdo. And then at like 4-5 in the afternoon, after I'd been hanging out with my friend for like 2 or 3 hours, he sent me a message saying, oh yes miss, I'll try better next time, or something like that. And I was jubilant. I was like, oh, it was meant to be a kiss. We were both just shit because he's so tall and I'm so small, and he was literally like, the bus had just pulled up, so it was like he had to go, so he was like and then left. So clearly in that moment we didn't kiss. And then on date 2 we met up and we went to this bench in what used to be Shavas Park but has now been built up to be this beautiful garden in Liverpool one. So we walked up the path and we sat down on a bench, because my thought was, if we sit on a bench, we're similar heights, so we can kiss without it being awkward. So I sat on this bench with him, and we were like just talking, holding hands and stuff, and then we kissed a few times, and it was really lovely. So I always think when I see like a park bench or something, like I wonder how many people had little romantic moments like that on the bench, where they were just like gearing themselves up to kissing the girl of their dreams, or sitting there thinking like, oh, I hope he pops the question, or you know, just these sweet little moments. Or I wonder how many people had these melancholy like breakups and moments of just sheer sadness, like who got fired and went and sat on that bench and just felt shit for themselves, or who went there to feed the birds and like just had a nice little personal date to themselves, where they just went out and had some nice thoughts and fed some birds and then went home. You know, it's just nice to think about these shared experiences that humans have, because everyone ends up having like friends and falling out with friends, or having a loved one and breaking up. Some people don't break up, actually. I mean, my mum and dad have been together since they were 13 or 14. You know, I've friends who've been together since they were like 16 or 17, and they've only had one breakup or whatever. And then I've got friends who have just like I feel for them, but they've like dated a few different people, and each one it's just sort of been like, well, we don't work because of this, and I'm too much for this person, that person's too much for me, and all this sort of stuff. I mean, I've broken up with a few people, and I've been broken up with by myself, like, you know, so I feel, but I think the really beautiful thing about human experience is when someone's passionate about something and they tell you it, and they tell you about their experiences that they've had and these moments, because 2 people can share a moment and both of them will have their version of what happened, because we remember things differently. Like with rose tinted glasses, you're gonna let a lot of the little bad things that happened in a moment slide. Or if you're, you know, pissed off, all those little things were just the worst. And when we went to the bar, that the barmaid was rude. When we went out for that meal, they'd put onions in the food when I'd asked them not to, and you know, whereas someone else can be sitting at that dinner thoroughly enjoying the meal, thoroughly enjoying the conversation and stuff, and someone at the meal can be sat there like fucking picking out onions, pissed off. Like, I remember I went for this meal with a group of friends, and I was kind of like a fringe friend to them. I'd been more central friend, but then I'd broken up with the person who had known them better, so I was the ex-girlfriend of a friend sort of thing. So I went out for this meal with the group of them, and this waitress came over and asked what I wanted, and they served this like chicken kebabby type thing. And I said, oh, I'd like the chicken kebab thing, whatever. She said, do you want it rare, medium, or well done? And I went, chicken. Now, the music was loud, to be fair. And I went, chicken? And she went, yes. And I went, do I want rare chicken? And she went, yes. And I went, well done? Because I'm not risking salmonella poisoning, and I'm pretty sure you cook it beautifully, but I'm not risking it, and I don't want to eat like chewy, gross chicken. So I was like, no, I'll have a well done chicken. So like 3 times I was like, are you sure you mean chicken? Rare chicken? I'd like the well done chicken. So 3 times I was like, chicken, 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 chicken. And then she came over to the table and said, was yours the beef kebab thing? And I went, no, it wasn't. So then she walks away, and then she came back a bit later and went, yeah, it was the beef kebab. I've got it written down on my notebook or whatever. And I said, I didn't ask for the beef kebab. I asked you for chicken, and you asked me if I wanted it well done, and I said no, chicken. And then 2 of the people sat across the table from me said, we heard you say you wanted it well done, so you must have ordered the beef. And I was like, no, I said chicken. I said chicken 3 times, and I was confused because I had this huge thing. I think I have ADHD, but I had this huge internal conversation with myself in the time that she'd asked me rare or well done, where I was like, you can't have chicken. And then I started thinking like, well, actually in Japan they have sushi chicken where it's like uncooked, so maybe they've like perfected it here. But then even then I don't think I'd like the consistency of it, so I was like, rare chicken, like, just to clarify. So I had this whole internal monologue with myself. And then they were like, no, we heard you order the beef. The 2 people sat across the table from me. So she put the beef thing down in front of me and was like, I mean, if you want the chicken. And I was like, I don't want to cause any issues. I'll just eat this. And then my friend who'd ordered the chicken kebab across the table from me said, do you want to swap with me? Because I ordered chicken, but I'm more than happy to eat the beef. And I was like, yeah, but the beef is now well done. If I was ordering beef, I'd have gone for medium or rare, because I don't like it to be too tough. And it's beautifully, it comes out on this little skewer that's suspended, and then you get a little pot of garlicky sauce that you pour over it, and when you pour it over it, it like marinates it, and that's lovely. And I was like, and he was like, well, we'll half and half it then. So he swapped it round, so I ended up with the chicken and he ended up with the beef. And I like pulled a few off and poured the thing over and ate a few bits. But then I felt like so guilty throughout this whole meal that I didn't really want to eat it because I was eating my friend's meal. So he ate the beef and then was like, so can I try some of the chicken, please? Since that's what I ordered, sort of thing. And I was like, of course. And like scraped most of it off and gave it to him. So I ended up eating like 2 or 3 little nugs of chicken from this. And then when it came to paying, I was like, I'm literally paying for these 2 little tiny bits of chicken that I ate covered in like garlicky sauce, because the 2 people across the table from me said that they heard me order beef. And then it went to an extra step when I was like giving him this chicken and I was sat eating just this little piece of chicken, that he went, it must be really weird to think that you said one thing when you said something else. And I just didn't say anything because, as I say, these were fringe friends. And I didn't really, like, want to get into this sort of, like, no, honestly, I said chicken and the waitress must not have heard me, or she's a bit doolally or whatever. But they, like, the whole table had been saying how they loved it here and they came here all the time and and I was the ex of someone, so I was just like, I'm not having this conversation because I can imagine that it might get back to my ex and they'll be like, can you believe that your ex did this? And I just thought, I'm just not going to argue it. So I just went, sort of thing, and then paid for my meal and, we went our separate ways and stuff. And then I remember saying to someone else, like, I definitely ordered the chicken, and they were like, I believe you, like, it's fine. But my experience of that meal and their experience of that meal are vastly different. Like, in that, I felt stupid because I didn't say to the waitress, I don't think you're hearing me, come here, I'm saying chicken, not beef. Or pointing at the menu and saying, no, this one, so that she'd go, oh, chicken, or whatever. I felt a bit stupid for not doing that, like, being insistent, like, because in the back of my mind I was thinking, she doesn't think I'm saying chicken, she thinks I'm saying beef. But because she was so insistent when I was saying chicken, like the chicken, you want me to have chicken rare? And she's like, yeah. I was like, it must be chicken. I've said it like 7 or 8 fucking times now. It must be chicken. So I felt stupid for not insisting further and being like, no. There's a lack of communication here. I want this sort of thing. So I felt stupid. And then I was sat across from people who were insisting they'd heard me say beef because she'd said, well done. And I was like, no, you guys think I'm stupid and think that I've ordered the wrong thing because she said well done. You think I said beef because you heard someone else say well done. That doesn't mean I said beef. That means you think I'm saying beef because you heard well done. So I felt stupid from not insisting. I also felt a bit like humiliated that these people thought that I was being stupid. And then afterwards, when we all paid and stuff, I felt a bit like shortchanged because I felt too guilty to eat the meal because my friend had lovingly swapped it with me because he knew I wasn't going to enjoy this beef. So I felt guilty and I felt a bit shortchanged for paying for this meal with this waitress who just wasn't listening to me, sort of thing. And I also felt like I couldn't really speak up because the people that were there with me weren't like my closest friends or anything, so I couldn't just turn to one of them and say, like, I ordered the chicken, what am I supposed to do in this situation? Because I think if I'd have had another friend there who was more, on my side, like more close to me, I maybe would have been like, hey, I'm sorry, but I was saying chicken. I don't think you heard me. I insisted a few times that I was saying chicken and you were saying well done. And I was like, are you sure it's chicken that's well done? Because I want chicken. I probably would have made more of a thing and said, no. You guys might think I said beef and you're telling her I said beef, which makes her think that she can give me this meal, which I didn't order. But this other person believes me when I say I said chicken. So I want the chicken. Because one of the other things was I felt like, oh, well, if they're saying that I've said beef and that means she thinks she can give me this meal, I'm not paying for a chicken and a beef skewer if I kick up a fuss now. Whereas if I had someone else with me to bolster me, I might have been like, no, I'm not eating that. Take that away and please bring me chicken. Like, that might have made me come across as a bit of a dick, but then I at least would have had the meal that I was supposed to have when this woman misheard me. But anyway, I've been talking for quite some time now. Like, my perception of that meal is not as good as everyone else's. Like, they all enjoyed their meal, they loved it, they were all talking about how great the food was, how great the ambience was, how lovely the waitress was. Like, she got a massive tip out of it at the end as well. And everyone was like throwing in money, and when everyone was drinking a bit of champagne, they offered the waitress a flute of champagne as well because she'd been so lovely throughout the whole thing. And she was, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying she shouldn't have had this massive tip and she shouldn't have had this champagne flute, but it felt like, to me, all of these people had a connection and they really enjoyed this meal. And I was like on the outskirts because of this little situation that was happening to only me. No one else was in on it. And I didn't feel like letting them in on it because I didn't want to be that person who ruins the meal by kicking off, sort of thing. So it's lovely to think of these moments that people have and how different people can have different versions of an event that could have gone beautifully for both of them, but one person will think like, oh yeah, and then we had this lovely kiss, and the other person will go, no, we hugged first and then we kissed and then we did this, that. There's these little moments where it's cemented in your mind. I remember this really beautiful passionate kiss. The other person on the end of that kiss might be like, this kiss is going on a bit too long. Like, it's really interesting. Humans, back to the vampires. Many Toreador emerge from the ranks of accomplished artists, both new and faded. But not all artists wield a brush. To the Toreador, art encompasses all forms of entertainment and stimulation. The Clan of the Rose courts the greatest actors, singers, writers, dancers, and even sex workers. If the degenerates believe such mortals will offer something new to their clan, Despite the custom of embracing only the best, the Toreador fixation on beauty and innocence has caused many a diva to make a fledgling in haste. Many a moonlit night, new clan members have emerged as shadow hedonists, one-hit wonders, or just a stunning body with nothing else to offer. Nicknames are the divas, the harlots, the sensates, the perverts, and the hedonists, and the generalists. You see, the blood that flows within me is that of Clan Toreador. There are 13 such bloodlines among us kindred, though that number has been contested in the past, and these nights it seems that nothing is certain anymore. So let's show you the bloodlines. Oh, okay. Thought I was going to tell you the 13 clans. The clans have gone by many epithets over the years, but the names used these nights have their roots in medieval times, the original Inquisition, if you can believe it. They used these to categorize us, describe our inherent differences. In time, we adopted them ourselves. Each clan has a uniqueness about it, inescapable, originating from an ancient progenitor, carried from sire to child. For the Toreador, the gift lies in a sensitivity of sorts. We are uniquely attuned to beauty and ugliness both. We can see either where most cannot. What? We are uniquely attuned to beauty and ugliness both. We can see either, there we go, where most cannot. My brain just didn't connect those two sentences. A blessing on most nights, occasionally a curse. The sheriff is of my clan, although you'd be hard-pressed to see him as such. Poor Kadir, it breaks my heart to see him in this state. Still, there is a beauty to it as well, nothing like a good fall from grace. Try as she might to act playful, you can tell she genuinely cares. She lets her gaze wander for a brief moment, but is quick to regain her composure. Then there are the Ventru. Known for their pride and a proclivity to rule over others, the prince represents that clan, as is quite common in our society and around the globe. So she mentioned this to me when I was a Ventru, but she didn't mention that I was a Ventru. When the Blue Bloods think themselves rulers, the Bruja like to see themselves as preeminent revolutionaries. They call for universal rebellion while being slaves to their own temper. We don't discuss the rabble much anymore, not after they've largely broken off with Camarilla. To think they were philosophers once, long ago. I hope to tell you more about some of the other bloodlines tonight. Yeah, the Bruja are basically quite brutish and fists first conversation later. But in the book it says that they're quite braggy about the fact that they all used to be kings and people of high stature. I hope to tell you more about some of the other bloodlines tonight. So, how can I tell a kindred's clan? Clans stick together, right? What's my clan? Do you know what my clan is? No, I can only guess it based on certain aspects of your behaviour and tastes. You will need to come to your own conclusion and seek validation from your clanmates if you require such a thing. As you will no doubt learn, some kindred fit these stereotypes more than others. The blood is hard to deny, though there are certainly those who try. But that is perhaps a subject for another time. I invited you here for a reason. There is something I wanted to speak to you about. It is customary in our society, especially among younger kindred, to organise into coteries. Sometimes these are called by the prince themselves, or mandated by a fledgling sire. In our case, you may treat it as more of a strong recommendation. I want you to seek out companions, not only because you need to learn more about our society, but also because it is useful. True friendships are rare among kindred, but having allies, even temporary ones, is something of a necessity these nights. We might be selfish creatures, but we are drawn to each other nonetheless. Do you have your own coterie? So tell me, are you part of a coterie? Any close allies? I do have those that I trust enough to work with. Yes, not a coterie exactly, though I have joined several of those over the years. Not in over a century, though. You, however, you would do well to meet some of the city's younger kindred and see if you can find a connection. It's an essential experience for one so young. She puts on a mysterious smile. I'd spent some of my precious time last night asking around, pondering potential kindred for you to meet. Came up with a short list of contacts. I hope you'll appreciate the gesture. Forging a partnership with them might offer perspectives and viewpoints that I cannot provide. Lenses through which to view our kind. They are all members of the Camarilla, of course. More or less. Okay, who are they? Alright then, let's hear it. What was on the list? Eager to learn about them, I see. Good, I'm glad. So let's start with the Tremere. They're a powerful clan, disliked by many, but feared and respected by many more. They have been an important pillar of the Camarilla since the very beginning. They are blood sorcerers. Blood sorcerers? You could swear you once saw them play at the Apollo. Probably not the same blood sorcerers, though. Slippy snickers. Oh, child, don't be caught with that look on your face when you meet a warlock in person. They really are adept at using vitae to their own and others, as well as others, to unique and potent effects. Since they are quite rigid in their hierarchy, the kindred I had in mind for you might need some persuading. His name is Agathon. From what I hear, he is quite the scholar, very ambitious, the child of a noted Tremere here in New York. Aisling Sturbridge. Spend enough time with Agathon, and I'm sure you'll run into her sooner or later. A chance to meet an important person, then. So by getting to know this Agathon, I can get closer to someone higher up the ladder. Yes, though not immediately, I would imagine. Aisling finds herself in a somewhat precarious position, both in the city and her clan. Every move she makes is... Did I say Aisling? Is it Aisling? No, it's Aisling. Every move she makes is heavily scrutinised, thus she has learned to tread lightly. Anyway, if you wish to contact the young Tremere, I hear you can usually find him in a New Age bookstore out on Broadway. The Tremere have one of their own workshops there. Gregory will leave you the details. Now this next recommendation comes with a bit of caveat. As you recall me saying, most bloodlines have unique features that might not be obvious at first glance. Well, there is one clan whose members wear their curse on their sleeves. The Nosferatu. Wait, Nosferatu is in the German expressionist classic? No way. No wonder they make their havens in sewers, abandoned buildings and such. Their appearance is hideous and obviously unnatural. Had they walked the streets like other kindred, the kind would have learned of our existence long ago. Did you just shudder? It's hard to tell with her usual complexion, but you could swear her skin suddenly took on an even more sickly colour. The one I have in mind isn't as big an eyesore as the worst of them, but he is no Adonis either. Still, he has some talents and connections that you might find useful. His name is D'Angelo, and he has an office, for lack of a better term, in the otherwise abandoned grain terminal in Breadhook. Right next to one of those Swedish stores. The name escapes me, the one with the awful furniture. IKEA? Yes, that's it. My mind struggles to retain things that are aesthetically displeasing. D'Angelo does odd jobs for Kadia, digging up dirt, locating kindred who would prefer to remain hidden, the kind of work the Nosferatu are best at. He's on a case right now, something to do with Kine murderers, I think. After your initial brush with your dear sheriff, I think it would be wise to show some goodwill towards his agenda. Assisting D'Angelo with his investigation might be just the thing. She takes a brief pause to look out the window again. Now come the two more exotic proposals. Exotic, as if the Blood Mage and the Vampire Detective were business as usual. You may have heard about the Gangrel before. They are a wild clan in touch with their beasts in a way others might not dare to attempt. They mostly keep out of big cities, but there are exceptions. Nominally, they have been a part of the Camarilla for over 2 decades. Excuse me. But the one kindred I would like you to meet has strong, shall we say, familial ties to the sect. Her name is Tamaka. Her sire, Jezebel, was instrumental during the Battle of New York back in 1999, the very same battle that cemented the city as a Camarilla domain. Sadly, her achievements have gone largely unrecognised. Tamaka and a number of her siblings will reside in the domain they were awarded after the battle. Prospect Park. Jezebel herself left the city some years ago, fed up with being underappreciated. Any more about Tamaka? You seem to know a lot about Asaya, but anything you can tell me about her? I asked around. Out of all Jezebel's childhood, Tamaka is known to be the most rational and cool-headed, at least for Gangrel. That said, she's likely to have a unique way of appraising your worth. I cannot say how exactly, but you should be prepared for an interesting conversation at the very least. Then again, that could be said of almost every kindred in this city. There's that mysterious smile again. So you see, seeking out Tamaka could prove quite educational if nothing else, and who knows, perhaps you'll find her temperament to be a welcome change of pace. But speaking of change of pace, I have one last suggestion for you, though it's not one I make lightly. The kindred who calls herself Hope. She's a Malkavian. They are a uniquely cursed clan. For centuries, we considered them mad, insane, unhinged. But those of us who spend enough time with them come to understand the truth. It's no sickness, but a unique perception of the world that has them appear to us as unstable. And that perception can prove to be very valuable. Having a Malkavian as your companion might be taxing on the nerves and a true test of patience at times, but their insight and intuition are unrivaled among kindred. As for Hope specifically, she is said to be a recluse, but I have it on good authority that she can currently be found in an internet cafe. I believe it's called in Lower Manhattan. Oh, an internet cafe, I believe it's called, in Lower Manhattan. Gregory has the address. See these? These are a giveaway. An internet cafe. They act as if they're brackets. I believe it's called, and brackets, in Lower Manhattan. What did you learn about Hope? One of my colleagues told me about her. He considers her uniquely talented and tapped into the current fads of mankind. Not something I'm personally interested in, as I'm sure you know by now. I take his word for it at any rate. Itchy eye. Well, I believe that's all of them. I still have a few social calls to make tonight, so I'll leave you to it. Use tonight and tomorrow night to arrange some cordial visits of your own. I'll send Gregory for you as soon as I have further need of your services. Oh, that reminds me, you'll need a car. Join us downstairs, won't you? She smiles once more and turns to her driver. He helps her put on her coat, and the three of you leave Sophie's apartment. Sophie points out one of the cars near the building as Gregory hands you the keys. It's a rather inconspicuous, compact car. A decent-looking, if not luxurious ride. Stay safe, Lamar. This is your first night alone. Don't let it be your last. As they drive away, you'll find yourself with more freedom than you've had for the past few nights. A blessing or a burden. Time will tell. With a list of addresses in hand, you consider your next move. Okay, so I've played this through, and last time I met with Hope and D'Angelo. I'm really sorry, V, that you're not going to meet these people, because I'm going to do these two so that I don't know the storyline. But Hope is fantastic, and I beg you that come and play this game, because Hope is just fantastic. I love her story. She's very cleverly insane, is what I'm going to say. And D'Angelo is, I love him. I just adore him, and I want to work with him because he's fantastic. He does do the whole, like, I'm a detective, I'm a gumshoe sort of thing. So, you do basically go on crime scenes and stuff with him. And he's like a typical, like, noir type figure. He's wonderful. So we're going to try the Blood Mage. Sophie's mention of a vampire clan of blood sorcerers sparked your attention. One of them, Agathon, could potentially be your introduction into the bizarre powers of the Tremere. So let's go. You arrive at the address given to you by Sophie, a small bookstore smack dab in the middle of Broadway of all places. What really catches you off guard, though, is the store's display. From what you've heard about the Tremere, they're infamous for their ties to the occult and the mythical. And yet now, looking at the oddball collection of items in the display window, it all feels borderline satirical. The books here cover anything from, oh, I am so sorry, Ayurvedic practices and homeopathy to wellness and self-motivation. The vaguely amusing juxtapositions don't end there either. I love this music because we've all been in one of those shops where they've got the joss sticks and they sell, like, homemade clothes and items and stuff like that, and when you go in, there's this beautiful smell of incense and there's tapestries on the walls that are all different colours and stuff. You notice a copy of Anton LaVey's Satanic Bible tucked behind a cheap smiling Buddha. A scientific journal on hematology sits next to a teen-orientated pamphlet on the blood-type personality theory. A number of religious and quasi-religious symbols, lockets, pins, and various emblazoned paraphernalia are haphazardly strewn across the display and between the tomes. Before you even open the door, you can smell the burning incense and hear the corny, Far East tinged music seeping through the cracking speaker mounted above the entrance. It's much more quaint than you would have expected from what Sophie told you about the so-called warlocks. It doesn't look like they have much interest in impressing outsiders. Then again, if there's anything you've learned from these past few nights, it's that appearances can be deceiving. At this time of night, the shop appears to be closed. Regardless, you ring the bell. You hear someone shuffling around inside. A brief moment later, the latch slides and the door is pushed open for a few inches. A tired-looking blonde in loose clothes appears in the crack. She seems confused, like you just woke her up. She lets out a yawn, stretching her tattooed neck. Finally, she squints in your general direction. Her peer's lip curves in an awkward smile. Is Agathon in? I'm looking for a guy named Agathon. Is he around? The girl gives you a suspicious look over but opens the door. She takes a few steps back and you hear footsteps coming from behind a floral curtain that covers the back door. A bespectacled, smart-looking woman emerges and looks straight at you. Come in and follow me. Just don't touch anything, please. You follow her through the store. Inside, as expected, the stuffy air smells of sandalwood, frankincense, and a dozen other aromas. The woman leads you behind the curtain and through the back door into a rickety staircase. A flight of steps takes you up to the second story. You instantly notice the change in decor as the tacky New Age bookstore gives way to something resembling a cross between a library and a workshop. I've not been in this room because I obviously didn't come to visit this guy, and it doesn't double up as anything else that's been painted, so this is interesting to me. Is this a naked statue? It looks that way. The smell here is strong too, but much more layered. You're not sure what to make of it at first, but with each whiff it becomes apparent. Blood. The aroma, though subtle at first, soon becomes overpowering. It takes you a moment to adapt and focus. Aisling Sturbridge! I don't think you know who you're speaking with, so an introduction is in order. My name is Aisling Sturbridge, and I am the High Regent of the Chantry of the Five Boroughs. Okay, so let's quickly... Clan Ventru, we're not that, so we don't give a shit. Clan Bruhar, we're not that, so we don't give a shit. Clan Tremere, we're talking to one right now. The magic people. Vitae is vampire blood. Clan Nosferatu, we're not one of them, so we don't really give a shit. Gangrel, don't really give a shit. We're going to meet one, so enjoy reading that if you want to pause. Malkavian. There's a lot going on with them. Regent. Every chantry has a regent. The regent is responsible for the tutelage of all other Tremere in the domain. While the regent may not teach them personally, she must ensure all Tremere are being educated. The regent's other duties extend to the clan's protection in the domain, and sometimes its representation on the Primogen Council. Chantry is a traditional name for the Tremere headquarters in a city, usually part shelter, part library, and part laboratory. You are Lamar correct. I have to say you're lucky the ward outside the building is only there for notifications tonight, otherwise it would have been quite unpleasant. Look at this beautiful hue going on around it. Her eyes don't seem to be lighting up in like the yellow ring. To answer your question, Agathon is here, but he's hard at work and I wouldn't want to disturb him. Am I to understand this is a social visit? How do you know who I am? Well, for one thing, knowing who's who in the city is one of my duties as High Regent. But more importantly, you've been in the mind of many a kindred since Langley took you in. It's quite a precedent, as I'm sure you know. A first under Prince Panhard, and for Sophie to be the one to do it. Curiouser and curiouser. Still, I'm sure you haven't come here to look for dirt on your sire. That would be unwise. Sophie mentioned Agathon to me. She said he's quite knowledgeable. Did she now? Aisling looks you up and down. Her countenance seems unchanged, but you can tell she's judging what you said. That's new. Suddenly a man enters from a side room. He doesn't even look at you, lost in his own thoughts. Jesus Christ. What a scary bastard. And I'd like to point out, he kind of looks like that painting from Ghostbusters. I have it, Aisling. I think I know how to find it. He catches himself as he notices you. His face turns sour. A visitor? Yes, we were just discussing you, in fact. Is that so? I'm looking for allies. in the city. I was wondering if you'd consider teaming up. Teaming up? He seems very confused by the notion. What for? I could assist you in your work. I can be quite helpful, knowing I can count on someone to return the favour. Is that right? He seems to consider it, then turns to Aisling. Hi, Regent. May I ask your advice on this? She looks you over as if judging her worth. It takes her just long enough to make you feel uncomfortable. When she takes her eyes off you, she addresses Agathon. Do you feel like you need assistance in your task, my child? I'm confident I can do it on my own. He pauses, hesitating for a second. But I do believe it is important enough to warrant outside help, even if only for a single night. Another brief moment of hesitation. Of course, the details would remain between you and I, sire. Agreed on all points. Why don't you start by giving our intern here a brief explanation of what it is you're after? Agathon gives Aisling a hesitant look, but the woman nods approvingly. Encouraged, she turns towards you. A member of our clan disappeared without a trace a handful of nights ago. While the High Regent investigates if any foul play was involved, I've been tasked with recovering her research notes, if there is anything left to recover, that is. I may have an idea where to start looking, and I suppose this is where you come in. If you truly wish to help, I could use your assistance tonight. Right now, in fact. Given the time we've just wasted on idle chatter, I should leave immediately. Who's the missing person? A single glance at Aisling is enough. You can tell you're not getting an answer, at least for now. We're after her research. That's what you should focus on. These people aren't in the habit of making things simple. Facing layers upon layers of secrecy, you can only hope that what lies beneath is the real deal. I'm heading out. Are you coming or not? Sure, I'll join. Very well. He gives Aisling a slight bow. High Regent, with your permission? She nods. Before you go, however, Lamar, defer to Agathon in all things. Our clan values obedience above everything else. Prove you can follow, and this might turn into a mutually beneficial relationship. I will await his return and his report. Good luck, my child. Agathon bows again and heads out, urging you to follow. The High Regent watches you leave. I was going to say reverent then? Don't know why. Outside, Agathon leads you to his car. It's almost funny seeing him get behind a wheel. Somehow you'd expect a more mystical means of transportation. You drive so... Fuck me, that's terrifying. Look at that mirror. Demon eyes. Has he got a bald spot here too? Poor guy. Not that it's a bad thing to have a bald spot, but with all that luscious hair, he clearly has a problem with it disappearing on him. You drive south, heading to the lower east side. Agathon seems lost in thought. Either that, or he's a very careful driver. Either way, several minutes pass in silence. Remain quiet. You decide not to disturb his thoughts, and are surprised that it's him who breaks the silence as you're about halfway over the East River. Let me ask you something. Why me? There's likely a couple hundred of us kindred in New York, yet you seek me out specifically. Why? Sophie spoke highly of you. For one, Sophie spoke highly of you. She gave me a short list of people to meet. You were on it. I see. Once more, he grows silent. You're unsure whether to continue prying as your driver seems to disappear into his thoughts. You drive into Williamsburg and stop by a fancy-looking building. We're here. There's a restaurant on the top floor. You wanted to help, so here's your chance. I need you to get us inside the VIP lobby. Once we're in, I need about half an hour of focus and some space. It'll be up to you to keep attention away from the room. Can you do it? He doesn't wait for an answer and points to the front door. Go ahead, I'm right behind you. The two of you take the elevator up to the restaurant. The door opens and you see that there are only a few guests left sitting at their tables. An important looking staff member approaches you. Good evening, I'm very sorry but the restaurant is closing for the night. I can make a reservation for next week if you wish. Oh, I don't know how to play this. We're location scouting? I'm the special kind of client. That could break the Masquerade. That could offend him. Or am I pretending that I'm looking for somewhere to film in? But then he might still not be interested. He might just think I'm saying that I'm flush with cash if I say special. I'm over-evaluating. Like, I'm a special kind of client. No, I think we can get in now. We're special clients, if you know what I mean. I don't think I do. Apologies, but it's company policy. No exceptions. Would you like to make a reservation? Presents. It's fine. We can come in. We'll be in the VIP lobby. It won't take long. The man blinks. A confused smile appears on his face. Yes, of course. Not a problem. Please, come right in. You walk in, trying to look casual, and make your way towards the VIP lobby. You step inside and close the door behind you. It's a nice place, very highbrow, lots of old, expensive-looking furniture and private rooms. This is where we came as a Ventru. This is where we were embraced. Lots of old, expensive-looking furniture and private rooms to discuss any sort of business one discusses when you're that rich. Your companion looks at you with something akin to admiration, or at least that's how you choose to interpret the slight change in his usual somber facade. Not bad. Not bad at all. He inspects the room. It's unusually cold, and Agathon soon discovers why. Looking behind the curtain, a window hangs open. The handle and lock look like they've been dissolved, as if with acid. God damn it, Juno. I don't think we want to piss him off too much. So we won't ask who she is, because he doesn't want us to know. Looks like she's gone, seems like a fair thing to say. And that would be us questioning him again, so... Looks like whoever Juno is, looks like she's no longer here. A flash of fury sparks in his eyes. Yeah, no kidding. He takes a frantic look around the room. This changes things. Keep an eye on the door. I'll need some time, half an hour at the very least. Nobody disturbs me, understand? He hastily pushes a couch and some potted plants out of the way, moves a bar stool and takes out a curved knife. Cutting into his own arm, he lets some of his blood drip onto the wooden floor. It's pretty fucked up the way his flesh oozes the deep red, thick vitae. In life, you'd have found his stomach churning, but right now you feel weirdly turned on by the sight. What follows is more disturbing yet. With one hand, he sheaths the knife and seals the wound. With the other, he smears the blood around him while muttering some weird chant. It sounds vaguely Latin, but you're pretty sure it isn't. It's all more than a little disconcerting, but he seems to know what he's doing. A few moments later, the circle starts glowing faintly as thin wisps of smoke surround Agathon. He sits down in the middle, legs crossed, eyes closed. Minutes pass. Agathon's face twitches from time to time, and his head turns every now and then, as if he was looking around or listening in on a conversation. The smoke grows thicker, forming a veil around the mage. You expected something more flashy, but it's still a sight to behold. You wonder what the point of it is, but refrain from asking. It's probably best that Agathon do his thing. For close to 30 minutes, you're left to your own devices, then suddenly the door opens slightly and the manager leans into the room. You tense up for a second, but he just gives you an awkward smile. Anything you need? You shoo him away before he can take a closer look at your companion, and he retreats obediently. 2 minutes later, Agathon casually gets up off the floor and walks over to the sofa. He pushes his hand in between the cracks of the upholstery and fishes something out, then turns to you and nods. We're done here, let's go. You make your way back to the elevator, passing the manager on your way. He gives you a slight, somewhat confused smile, but neither him nor any of his staff get in your way. Despite that, the elevator ride down feels tense, and the two of you only relax once inside Agathon's car. He starts the engine and takes a right at the Continental Army Plaza, back to the bridge, onto the bridge. I'm just about to say something, but he beat you to it. That went better than I expected, all things considered. It might have been a trick of the light, but you're pretty sure you saw a smile. I'm used to working alone, but what I'm dealing with right now, it might require some more assistance, and you seem capable enough. Thanks, I guess. I can do more, you know. I don't want to question him, because they want us to be obedient and quiet. I can do more, you know. You know, I can do more than watch your black while you're channeling Madame Blavatsky. Can you now? I guess we'll find out next time. That seems to deplete his social battery for the night. You drive the rest of the way in silence. It doesn't take you long to reach the Warlock's hideout. Ooh, enchanted to meet you. Agathon waves at you absent-mindedly, once again lost in his thoughts. Hopelessly so. One of these nights you should probably take him up on his offer. Who knows, if you gain his trust, maybe you can actually break through his stoic facade and meet the man underneath. So when it says rest like this, it generally means that you need to rest, and this indicates how close it is to sunrise. There's the sun coming up, there's the moon going down. So if I try and click on anyone, it'll say, you need to rest. You notice something strange by the front door of your haven. A letter slips under the door, cream-coloured, old-fashioned envelope. There's no name on it, but you know it's meant for you. Opening the letter, it's clear it's been sent by someone incredibly old-fashioned, rich, or a fan of classic stationery. No normal person sends letters like this. The note is short and terse, written in elegant, delicate handwriting. You're cordially invited to a rendezvous at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. I'll be waiting to make your acquaintance tomorrow night. Look for me closer to God. There is no other information. It looks like you have a mysterious invitation for the following night. And then we sleep. And then it opens up new things for us to do. So this is the letter that we've just received. We can go and do that, or we can meet Tamika. Or we can go back and do this. I have a feeling that you can only become friends with 2 people at once. We can still do this because it doesn't mean you make a friend. Unless it does mean you make a friend. But in this I made 2 friends and followed their storylines to the end, and then they were there with me for the finale sort of thing. So I have a feeling I can only really meet with the 2. I think if I meet with them, that I won't be able to come close enough to have them want to befriend me. Because after you meet with them 4 times, you get an achievement saying like, well done, you've got a Bezzy mate, yay. So what I will do is I will save it here, and we will come back now refreshed with a thing to do. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope whatever you're doing, it goes great and you have a lovely day, evening, weekend, whatever it is that you're doing.